Hey, hi, in this video we'll do a quick sneak peek of the Docker Swarm. With version 1.12, Docker introduced Swarm mode, which is a native Docker clustering technique. It allows one to manage a cluster of hosts running Docker and orchestrate them as well. In Swarm mode, the nodes have two roles, a manager node used for orchestrating the Swarm cluster and a worker nodes which only runs the containers. Though a node can be manager, it can still run containers within it. High availability of the Swarm cluster or the Swarm managers can be achieved by defining multiple manager nodes. Recommendation is to use odd number of managers as a cluster can tolerate n-1 by 2 failures. The managers within themselves elect a leader among themselves using a raft algorithm. You can also change roles, that is promote a worker to a manager or demote a manager to a worker. So with that quick preview, let's quickly jump on to a demo on setting up a Docker Swarm cluster. So I have three nodes, all of them running Ubuntu 6.4 image. There are three nodes here. I already have Docker installed on them, so let's quickly check what's the version of Docker that is running on these machines. So Docker version, it's 1.12. Docker version, this is also 1.12, and Docker version, this is also 1.12. So within these three nodes, what I will do is I'll use one of the hosts as manager and the other two nodes as worker. Since this just a demo, it's fine to have just a manager without any high availability. So installing the Swarm cluster is very easy and can be done with the Docker Swarm init command. So let's go ahead and do that. And that's it. The moment you hit enter, the manager, this particular machine becomes a Docker manager, and it actually gives you a command to run the command on other nodes to join the Swarm cluster. So let's go ahead and join our other nodes to this cluster. Before that, let's check the Swarm status using the Docker nodes ls. So as you can see, we have one Docker node which is normed as Docker manager, and the status is ready, availability is active, and this is the leader. Since there is only one manager, this becomes the leader. So let's go ahead and just copy this command and use them in our other worker machines. So what I'll do, I'll just go ahead and paste this. So this node joined the Swarm as a worker. So let's quickly go back to our manager and just do a Docker node ls again. Now you can see that now we have two machines. One is a Docker manager, which is the leader, and the other machine is a Docker worker 1. It just takes the host name of that machine, and it's actually joined the same cluster. So similarly, we'll go ahead and add the second machine to the cluster as well. And this is also added. Let's go ahead and quickly check this out. That's it. Now you have three hosts. They're all part of a Swarm cluster. So now let's create a container within the cluster. So for that, what I'll do is I'll use an nginx image, and we'll have to use the Docker service command to create a container within the Swarm cluster. So we'll do Docker service create. I'll just give a name. Just use it now to nginx. Now since this is a cluster, I can mention how many replicas I need. So that can be done by this command. I'll use a replica of 3. I'll publish the port, that is 80 on the host to 80 on the container, and I'll use the latest nginx default image. Now what this command does, it will create 3 instances of nginx, and it will be distributed across all the nodes in the cluster, which also includes the manager. The publish command maps the container port 80 to the host port 8080. Okay, so now let's go ahead and just do that. Now you can see that the container is just already launched. I had the nginx image already downloaded within these machines. So if the Docker image is not there for nginx, the host will actually start downloading or start pulling the nginx image from the GitHub repo. So let's go ahead and quickly check what the service looks like. So we can do that with Docker service ls. Now you can see that I have a container running, and this name is Naru NGINX, which I just gave, and there are 3 replicas. I actually mentioned 3 replicas, and all the 3 replicas are running, and the image name is NGINX. Now to visualize the Swarm cluster better, I'm going to run a container called Docker Swarm Visualizer on the manager. In Manomax, I've actually created a visualizer for Docker Swarm cluster, and I'm just going to use that visualizer as is. So I'm just going to take this. This helps actually to visualize the Swarm operations in a better manner. So I'll just use the same command. I'll just change this to 9000 since 8080 is already used. We use that 8080 for our NGINX. So let's just go ahead and run this command in the manager. And let's do a Docker service ls. Now you can see that I have 2 containers running. Let's try doing the same command on the worker. The worker does not from the worker you're not able to run these commands because they are just workers, they are not manager. These can be done only with the these commands can only run on the manager. Now since we have the visualizer running now, let's go ahead and quickly launch an instance. So let me just quickly check what's the IP address of this container. It's 53. And as you can see, this is a visualizer of the Swarm cluster, and if you remember, I have 3 nodes. Those 3 nodes are actually mentioned here. Manager, worker. It actually even gives the RAM that's running. So there are 2 Ubuntu machines. They're all running Ubuntu 16.4, and 2 of the machines are running 1 gig RAM, and the other one is running 2 gigs of RAM. Now within the nodes, you can see that the containers that they are running. So now you have the Naru NGINX. Remember, I actually asked to make 3 replicas of that container, and you can see that 3 replicas were by default spread across all the 3 nodes, 1 in the manager and 2 in the workers. And you will also have the visualizer running on the manager as well. Now scaling the environment within the Docker Swarm cluster is pretty easy, and you can do that using the Docker CLIs again. So let's quickly scale the NGINX from say 3 to 7. So we'll just do Docker service scale, and I can put the name of my container, and I'll just do 7. Now you can see that it immediately scales the NGINX container into 7, so we can do a Docker service ls, and you can see all 7 replicas are actually running on this cluster. And let's go and quickly check in a visualizer as well, and I'll just you can see that now there are 7 containers that are running within the cluster. Now you have 2 in the manager, 2 in the worker 1, and 3 in worker 2. Now similarly, similar to scaling up, we can also scale down the containers, and we can do that by just doing Docker service scale now NGINX 4. I'll do that 4. This will scale to 4. It's actually scaling down from 7 to 4. Let's quickly check our visualizer again, and you can see now you have 2 containers running in worker 1 and 1 each in manager and worker 2. Now let's try accessing the container. Remember now NGINX will publish a default web page, and let's go and access that. Now, but since we have 4 containers running, now which IP address should we use? You can actually use any of this node's IP address on the publish port, and it will throw the NGINX default page. Let's do that. So let's do 1.1. say 53, and I'll just use 8080. And you can see that I am logged into the NGINX web server. Now similarly, I can use the worker 1 VM, which is ifconfig. Let me just check the IP address. It's 54. Now you can actually even use 1.1.54.80.80 and it will still log in to the same MGINX page. This is because when a container spun up in the Swarm, the export port is mapped on all the hosts. And this is true even if the host isn't actually running the container, which actually gives a very truly distributed and scalable environment within the Swarm. So when a container is created, the service is broadcasted using Gossip Protocol to all other containers in a specific overlay network. So let's take a look at the network in the Swarm cluster as well. So let's do an inspect of the network. Let's do docker inspect. Let's do docker inspect and our NGINX. You can see this is the entire container. So if you just look at the Docker network ls, now you can see that there is an overlay network that's included along with the bridge and the host network and the none network that you actually generally see. You have two more networks in the Swarm cluster, that's gateway, bridge, and the overlay. The overlay is what is used to communicate between the nodes in the Swarm cluster. It actually creates a VXLAN overlay automatically so that the containers can communicate. So Docker network inspect. And as you can see now, if we did an inspect, that overlay is actually using 10.255.0.0. It's by default taking up one of the random IP addresses within for the overlay. And now when we create the Swarm cluster, we can actually create a network as well and assign a particular overlay network subnet to be used. So that's this for this video, which gave a sneak peek on how Docker Swarm operates and how easy it is to set up and orchestrate. We'll get into more details in future videos. Thanks for watching.